The unsung hero. In a quiet English town nestled between gentle hills and endless green fields, lived an elderly man named Edward Harris. He wasn't famous, nor was he wealthy. People just knew him as Old Edward, the gardener. Each morning, regardless of weather, Edward would take his worn-out shovel and wheelbarrow and tend to the local school's garden. He wasn't paid for it. No one had asked him to. He simply said, "If the children are growing, the garden should too." Children would often pass him by without much thought. Some even made fun of his patched clothes and muddy boots. But Edward always smiled, tipping his cap and offering a kind good morning, young one. No one really knew that he spent the rest of his day delivering food to the elderly, fixing broken fences for widows, and secretly slipping notes of encouragement into lonely mailboxes. Years passed, and Edward continued his quiet mission. The garden he cared for blossomed, not just with flowers, but with laughter, curiosity, and joy. Children began to leave their phones behind during breaks, drawn instead to the butterflies, the scent of lavender, the sound of bees humming by. Unbeknownst to anyone, Edward had been placing handwritten quotes under flower pots. Words like, "Greater than be the kindness you wish you'd received. Not all heroes or medals. Some wear muddy boots. Grow where you're planted, and help others bloom." One rainy afternoon, a troubled teenager named Lucas sat alone on a bench near the garden. He had been contemplating running away from home. He felt invisible, useless. Edward quietly approached and sat beside him without a word. After a moment, he said gently, "Greater than sometimes, the ones who bloom last, bloom the brightest." That sentence stayed with Lucas forever. One spring morning, Edward didn't show up. Then another day passed, and another. The bench near the garden remained empty. The flowers, once vibrant, began to droop. It was only later that people learned Edward had passed away peacefully in his sleep. He had no family, no public will, no ceremony, just a small note found in his coat. "Greater than I didn't need to be remembered. I only wished to be felt." At first, life continued as usual, but slowly, something had changed. Children began to water the plants on their own. Teenagers picked up litter. Teachers found more positive notes hidden in unlikely places. And the once ignored man began to live on in the little good deeds people started to do. Lucas, now grown and a school counselor, shared Edward's story in assemblies. He spoke of the man who had once saved him with a single sentence. Inspired, the school named the garden Edward's Hope and placed a plaque that read, "Greater than in memory of Edward Harris, the man who taught us to grow." Soon, the entire town began holding an annual event, the Day of the Quiet Heroes, celebrating janitors, caretakers, nurses, drivers, all those who gave silently without applause. The local news aired a story on Edward, and letters from across the country flooded in. People who had been helped by someone like him. He became a national symbol of invisible goodness. Years later, Lucas named his first son Edward. Why? Someone asked. He replied, "Greater than because I want my son to be kind, humble, and brave enough to do good without needing to be seen. Like the man who saved me." In the town's library, a quiet room now exists called the Unsung Corner. It is filled with stories of everyday heroes. People like Edward, who never made the headlines, but lit up lives with their quiet light. Moral of the story: true heroism isn't in being seen, it's in being felt. You don't need applause to make a difference. Even a whisper of kindness can echo for generations.